The first weekend of the Black Ops 6 beta has come to a close, and I want to give you some of my thoughts and opinions on it coming from an average player. To give some context, back in the day from about Black Ops 1 all the way up until about Black Ops 4, me and my friends used to play Call of Duty religiously every day after school, every weekend, whenever we got a chance. And we were actually pretty decent back then. We'd have no problem going in with 6-man lobbies, rolling over teams and winning games easily. But as time went on and Call of Duties came and went, friends came and went, people just started playing less and we all kind of fell out of love with Call of Duty. Now, I haven't completely neglected the game since. From Modern Warfare 2019 up until Modern Warfare 3 that came out last year, I played a few hours of the multiplayer each year, but I never really got into it. A part of that was just not having the same people around that I played with back in the day. But the main reason was the style change that Call of Duty went through in 2019. Modern Warfare just took the series in a direction that I didn't like. It became very Warzone-ified, everything kind of became the same, and it just wasn't something that I really enjoyed. But Treyarch has always been my favourite developer of Call of Duty. I've always liked their campaigns, their zombies, their multiplayers, to some degree. So I really wanted to give Black Ops 6 a chance. And that's why I feel like this video is worth making. I think it's worth an average player giving their opinion, because most opinions we hear online is from streamers or YouTubers or pro players, which, let's face it, 90% of us aren't. So yes, while those opinions are valid, it's also nice to get an opinion of just an average player. And to be honest, that's what I feel like I am at this point. You're never going to find a more kill for kill, trade for trade, 1KD player on the planet. So I thought I'd break this video down from things I liked in week 1 of the beta, things I'm neutral on, and things I didn't like as we head into week 2. So let's start off things on a positive note with the things I liked while playing Black Ops 6. The first thing that I liked, and I feel like the feature that most people will have opinions on coming into the beta, is Omni Movement. This is basically the new buzzword that Treyarch and Activision have been used to market Black Ops 6 and the biggest change to the game. To put it simply, basically now you can sprint forward, backwards, left, right, dive, slide in any direction without losing your momentum. It's meant to make the game feel more fast-paced, and in Treyarch's words, make you feel like an action hero because you can dive, slide through windows and doors. I actually really like how it feels in the game. I think it's really intuitive and it's easy to pick up. It can be really satisfying sliding and diving through doors and windows, all while still being able to aim down sights. This means there's rarely ever a break in momentum of gameplay, and it can lead to matches feeling really fast and frenetic. I have seen some clips and people talking online about how really skilled players can abuse the movement, but from what I've encountered, most people online just randomly dive around corners and just use it for fun. Even myself, I probably only had about 2 or 3 moments where I've successfully landed a dive or a slide and actually hit my shots without my gun going everywhere. And I don't know if it's designed to be like this or I'm just awful, but it's probably the latter. Now I know as the game develops and the months of its life cycle go on, skilled players will probably find new exploits and glitches and ways to abuse the movement, but I just hope it doesn't come to a stage where it's really frustrating to play against for the average player. If the meta develops to a stage where you have to develop these really cracked movement skills and techniques that the average players can never master, I just feel like it won't be fun. But as it currently stands, with everyone trying to figure out and get their footing in the multiplayer, I feel like it's a bit of fun and a nice addition. Another thing I really had a good experience with in the beta was the connection. Now I know this depends on where you are in the world and what type of internet you have, but I've seen a lot of people online saying they were getting really bad packet bursts, really bad lag issues, but throughout the whole beta I don't think I had one connection issue. It was really smooth on my end, which was really nice. Another thing Treyarch have done a really great job with this year is the accessibility settings. There's a lot of customization options from the visual side of things, whether it's your mini-map, how your HUD looks, or colorblind filters, and they've also done a great job with the controller settings. You can pretty much customize anything from the game, whether it's as simple as your FOV to your aim down sight sensitivity, and with the inclusion of Omni Movement, there's a lot of nice settings that allow you to customize how you want to use it. You can change whether you want your game to be tap to dive, hold to dive, and vice versa with sliding, or you can set up a nice hybrid system which is really unique and intuitive. I found this the best for me, and I think pairing this with the auto sprint setting actually allows you to focus on the gunplay of the game a lot more, rather than focusing all your mental energy on about 40 different button presses just to get the game to do what you want it to. This is something I think every new player should play around with though. Load up into a game. There's actually a training facility in the beta that you can load up into, and depending on what your preferences are, you're going to need to spend a lot of time depending on, do you want a click to sprint, do you want it to automatically tack sprint, tap to dive, etc. There's a lot of customization options and it can be overwhelming, so I just recommend going one at a time, playing around with what you like. I do understand though that some players could find this a bit eye-rolling. Call of Duty always was that just pick up and play game that you could easily just hop on after work or school and just enjoy. So a lot of people don't want to spend an hour the first time they load it up customizing how they want their tack sprint and their aim down sight speeds to be. So if you really don't want to think about this, I recommend just going onto YouTube and looking up the best settings that'll suit the most amount of people, because I think not changing it at all actually gives you a disadvantage than just leaving it at the default. And finally, for the things that I think were just outright good in the beta, it was the focus on OBJ players. And what I mean by this is there's actually a lot of perks that either give you a discount off score streaks, more score towards those score streaks, or one of my favourites, one that actually gives you a health buff while you're playing the objective. Treyarch has always looked out for OBJ players, actually being the first ones to introduce score streaks back in Black Ops 2. And as someone who pretty much exclusively plays objective-based game modes like Domination and Hardpoint, this is really appreciated. I'm way too average to drop 100 kill games every game, so this is how I feel like I can contribute to the team. Moving on from that and into the section that I feel neutral about in the beta, I'm actually going to talk with the perk system. I don't love it, I don't hate it. Again, you've got 3 perk slots, each one with its own unique set of perks you can choose from. The thing that Treyarch have done differently is that each perk comes in one of 3 colours, either red, blue or green. If you select 3 perks of the same colour category, you then get a 4th perk which gives you additional effects. For example, if you select 3 red perks, you then get the 4th Enforcer perk, which grants a temporary buff to movement speed and health regeneration rate after a kill. This feels like a weird evolution of the specialist bonus from Modern Warfare games, but I just feel like it's a worse version of it. I actually feel like this discourages perk variety, as I think players are going to feel like they're missing out on that 4th bonus perk if they don't pick perks of the same colour. The only reason I'm not putting it in bad is I want to see how it plays out in weekend 2 of the beta, because I feel like the bonus perks aren't that great apart from the red Enforcer perk, so maybe players will opt out of using those and opt for variety instead. Having more perks to unlock as well will spread player choice a bit more thin, so we might get more variety there. Next is the time to kill. Treyarch have said that this is slightly quicker than Cold War, and it definitely feels like that. I put this in neutral because it does feel like it is in a nice sweet spot. I don't love it and I don't hate it. It is very 50-50. Sometimes you do feel like when you get shot, you do get a chance to turn on someone and have a gunfight, while other times it just does feel like you get completely melted. Having said that, when actually shooting people yourself, it does feel really snappy and responsive and very satisfying. It doesn't feel like it takes a whole mag to kill somebody. You can drop somebody in a few bullets. Moving on to the attachments, I feel like Treyarch have done a good job, but I feel like there is more they could still do. I would still love to go back to the more streamlined process of every gun having about 10 attachments. You knew what those attachments did, you knew what their drawbacks were. Treyarch haven't gone that route with Black Ops 6, but what they've done is an improvement over the previous years. Treyarch have said they purposely have streamlined the process so that attachments, it's very clear what they do. Most of them will only offer pros to your gun with no drawbacks. Coming from a player that was used to the old attachment system and going into Modern Warfare 2019 and beyond, it was just so overwhelming to look at the endless list of barrels and grips and stocks on every gun. You just had no idea what they did. There was information on screen that told you what each attachment did, but how was I supposed to put into practice what +5 gun sway, -5 run speed, +8 gun to height speed, -7 dive into pool speed? It was just so overwhelming and so not fun. So Treyarch have gotten rid of a lot of the cons on most of the attachments and just clearly show you what benefit it's giving to your gun. I still wish it was closer to the old system, but this is a much needed improvement. Next, I want to talk about the maps. Now, obviously the beta doesn't have all of the maps from the final game, but from what was there, I wasn't overly impressed. Treyarch have said they've gone back to the 3-lane design, they're only doing small to medium sized maps, but it just felt that there was so many lanes crossing over to each other, so many ways to get in from one lane to the other, that I just felt it was very hectic, especially around the center of the map. That's not to say they were bad per se, I just felt like when you got to the center of the map, there was too many nooks and crannies and routes that players could get in and just blindside you. I also hope Treyarch ups the saturation a bit for the final game, because there is a bit of that kind of grey military look to some of them, especially Scud. I am holding out judgment, and they did grow on me as the beta went on, but I initially wasn't blown away. Also, one more thing, and this is just a personal preference, Treyarch have a thing called strike maps in the game, which is basically just really small maps. They're basically going to be the shipment maps of these games, just slightly bigger. Just personally, I've never really liked really small maps like Shipment or Rust. I've kind of preferred stuff like even Nuketown, Firing Range or Raid from Black Ops 2. But with Black Ops 6, Treyarch have said they're not going to have any large maps at all, and they're actually going to have a subsection of maps called strike maps. And I know the purpose of these is basically going to be camo grinding. That's what players are going to go into to get their camos. I've just never liked the flow of maps that are really small. It's just basically spawn, die, spawn, die, spawn, die. And if you get lucky, you can carve out a little streak for yourself, especially if you're a pretty average player. You might get 10 deaths in a row and then you get 1 life, or you get, you know, a 5 kill streak or something like that, and then you're just sniped over and over again, or blown up by a grenade or a shotgun and stuff like that. So that's why I put it in neutral. I didn't put it in bad because I don't think it's fair, just because it's not my personal preference. And lastly, moving on to the bad things that I found in the beta, there wasn't much, but there was a few things I'd like to highlight. The first thing, and the thing that was absolutely the worst part of my experience with the beta, was the spawns. I don't know what it is with Call of Duty beta, but they always struggle to get the spawns right from the get-go. And look, that's what the beta's for, to iron out these problems and figure this out, but my god, these were awful. It didn't matter what map or what game mode, you'd spawn in somebody's line of sight, people would spawn behind you, you'd spawn behind them. There was just no logic to it. I feel like especially in game modes like Domination and Hardpoint, in previous games it was very easy to predict the flow of the game. For example, if you've got A and B and the enemy team has C, you would assume, okay, they're going to spawn around the C side of the map. But the amount of times I'd be on a B flag looking towards the side of the map that the enemy team had, and just a wave of enemies would come from behind me and blow me away. And of course you're going to get a bad spawn from time to time, but it just seemed like every game mode, every map, no matter what I did, my play style, if I pushed really aggressively, if I decided to play really passively, it didn't matter. I would just get killed from behind over and over again, even if I was in my spawn. So let's hope Treyarch can look at this data for weekend 2 for the actual game release and kind of fix this, because it is really annoying. A second thing I didn't like, and I really hope Treyarch changes this in the final game, is that lobbies still disband at the end of every match. I don't know how many years it's been like this, but it's definitely been a few games now, and it just slows things down. You just go from one game, the lobby disbands, you have to wait for the search and connection, load back in. And a big problem I find with that is if you stay in the same lobby as the previous game, you'll get the countdown again, you get to vote for your map, you'll get a full game because you know the previous game has ended. Whereas if it disbands your lobby and searches for a new game, you don't know what you're getting into. You could be in a game that's half over, so you could jump from game to game to game that's just half over. And I really hope Treyarch fix that for the final release, but I don't think they will, because that leads into my last point, which is skill-based matchmaking. This is probably the scariest string of words you can say to any Call of Duty player over the last few years. To sum it up, basically, Call of Duty has always had skill-based matchmaking from COD 4 onwards, but back in the day, it wasn't as aggressive. The data basically says that back in the day, the connection was the number one thing the game would look for when putting you into a lobby. And then after that, only them or other factors were looked at in determining what game to put you into. But since Modern Warfare 2019, it seems like Call of Duty has had such an aggressive skill-based matchmaking system in place. Activision's logic seems that they've done studies and it's better for player retention, it's better for new players because they don't get stomped on and want to leave lobbies over and over again. And then it's better for skilled players because they'll actually be in fill lobbies, because if they're in lobbies with bad players, they'll just be in empty lobbies because the bad players will leave. But that just isn't the case. Call of Duty was around for 10 years with no really aggressive skill-based matchmaking, and there was no issues with that. It can be so deflating to have a really good game, but then that creeping fear just comes into the back of your mind that the matchmaking is going to kick me out of this lobby, determine my next lobby based off my previous game, and now I'm with absolute pro players. And this is a really weird roller coaster to go on as an average player, because one game I'll do absolutely awful, go 1 for 25, and then get put into a lobby with such bad players where I do amazing, but then the game thinks I'm a great player and puts me into a lobby with great players who trash me, and now I do crap, and the cycle just continues. I understand why it's there, and nobody wants to get trashed game after game after game, but that's how players get better. If you're a really bad player and you get put up against good players, eventually you will learn to get better. I just feel like skill-based matchmaking, at least a skill-based matchmaking this aggressive, should be exclusive to ranked play, because you can just feel it when you play. I don't want to harp on about previous Call of Duties and the glory days and all that crap, but back in the day you could sit down for 6+ hours no problem and it'd just be so chill. You never felt like you had to lock in and sweat so hard just to win a game or just even compete in a game. You could do that if you wanted to, but you didn't feel like you had to, or else you couldn't compete. And so now every second game or even every game you feel like you absolutely have to sweat. You just feel like after an hour you're drained and like you don't want to play anymore. I just said I'd bring this up because it's going to continue to be an issue. I know it's not going to change. Treyarch, it's not even Treyarch's decision, Activision won't take it out because apparently they've done studies that it's better for player retention and money somehow. So I know that's not going away anytime soon, but I just thought I'd have to bring it up. And that's it for my initial impressions on the week 1 beta of Black Ops 6. I really did like it. If I could compare it to any Call of Duty from previous years, it's like a really fast-paced Black Ops 2 in my opinion. It's obviously got some elements of the modern games, but I feel like it harkens closely back to that kind of play style. Looking online, I see a lot of people are mixed about the game. Some people love it, some people hate it, but that's just Call of Duty. There's valid criticism for every game, but look, I want this to be the best Call of Duty it can possibly be, and I hope Treyarch can pull that off. I'm looking forward to weekend 2 of the beta, seeing some new maps, some new guns, and hopefully we get more of the good stuff from last week I talked about. It's an open beta this weekend, so there's no charge to get in, so if you've got some free time, you should hop on. Let me know what you think of Black Ops 6 so far. Was I right? Was I wrong? Let me know. I would love it if you subscribed, and please like the video if you enjoyed it, and don't if you hated it. I've been Cormac Tavis, thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.